What's up, wizards, knights of the cross, and Lovecraftian servitors? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files Podcast, the podcast that wastes hours of your life that you'll never get back. We are your co-hosts, Spencer and Gabe, and today we'll be discussing the second short story collection of the Dresden Files, known as Briefcases. Also, spoiler warning, we're going to be spoiling everything up to this point in the series. So, really, after this, the only things that we're not spoiling are peace talks and briefcases. Or peace talks and battleground, yeah. So, you know, if you're a new reader, this is very new reader friendly. At this point in the series, it really seems silly not to. We're only 2 books away, so it seems kind of silly to not spoil them. Yeah. But here we are. That'll be another thing. Pretty soon we'll be at peace talks, and that's gonna be insane.
Crazy.
Oh man, we're finally here. As always, the links to our socials are linked down below. That's like Twitter and Discord. There's also a link to our Patreon where you can support us and you can see these episodes live as we record them and hang out in the chat and whatnot. But yeah, other than that, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And without further ado, let's talk some Dresden Files. So, you know, you and I had talked a few days ago, and I was like, I don't even know if I'll make it on Sunday because I had like so much to do this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up finishing it, and I don't know. What did you think of Briefcases? I'm curious what your overall thoughts on it are.
I was, you know, it was not because I hadn't read them in forever.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone back and read the main books way more.
Yeah,
you know,
same.
Than these. I have read these several times, but it's been years. It feels like.
Yeah.
Since so it was fun, fun to get in there. I don't think I had as much fun with it this time as I did like the first.
Same.
Couple times, and I see you got a note that says for me not as good as side jobs, and I would probably agree with that.
Yeah.
Not to say it wasn't bad, but I found myself like kind of keying in on a couple stories that I really enjoyed, and then a couple more they kind of just got lost in the wayside.
Yeah, I remember I had read Briefcases a while back when it first came out. And I remember really liking it, and I thought that I had liked it more than Side Jobs, but with Side Jobs, you get Thomas's POV story, you get Karen Murphy's POV story, you get Michael's story, The Warrior, you get I don't know, you get a lot of other stories from like Harry. And, like, I just feel like the other ones were, like, kind of better. I don't know. This one, it felt like in the other one, it was maybe less. There probably weren't as many stories, but they were, like, longer and more detailed. And I was shocked how short all of these stories were.
Yeah, they were quick, for sure. Yeah.
Like,
and a lot of them, and then the other thing, too, is, like, 3 of the however many stories were, like, Bigfoot, which is cool. You know, I enjoy the Bigfoot stuff, but it's just different from Side Jobs in that sense. Like not a lot of repetition in that one.
Yeah, I remembered myself really liking the Bigfoot stories, but I almost wonder if I only think that because people on the internet love the Bigfoot stories and they love like River Shoulders and stuff, and so like maybe I convinced myself that I liked it more than I did. But I was stunned on this reread how short the Bigfoot stories were. Those were like you're in and you're out. Like you meet Erwin, there's a problem, he solves it right away, and we're gone. The longest one being probably where he's in college.
Yeah, the last one is definitely the longest. The first 2 are like, just like you said, like 3-point short stories, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like crazy.
Finds
like
the problem, fixes it, done.
Yeah, like 30 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of shocked with that. There was some other stories um, that I was really shocked how short they were. I do not remember Fistful of Warlocks being super short.
Yep, that one's really fast.
Yeah, and you can see here I literally have 5
Yep,
notes
because
because
that's all you can take for
yeah,
it.
because I'm like there's literally nothing else like
Yeah.
she shows up in the West. She's got this weird horse.
Yep.
She
She
runs
finds
into
the
this
necromancers.
necromancer. It's
Yep.
like,
And then has to shoot out. He escapes, and it's over.
yeah, it's like, okay, I remember that story being super long, but again, sometimes, like, I would say most of the time when I reread a book, I'm like, oh, I remember why I liked this so
Yeah.
much. Like, any time I'm getting to that point with Night Angel
Yep.
where I'm like, is Night Angel really good or is it just nostalgia?
Yeah.
And then I reread Night Angel. I'm
That's what
like,
I need
no,
to
it's
do.
really, really,
I
really
think
good.
that's what I'm gonna do starting this week is
You
reread The Night
should.
Angel. It's been
Yeah,
a long time, and
it's so amazing.
subconsciously I've been like itching for it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's a good pick. Um, but yeah, I mean, like when I reread it, not like recently, but within the past couple
Yeah.
years, I was like, oh man, I forgot how good this was.
Yeah.
But then every now and then you get something like this where you reread it and you're like, is this good? Like,
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
like it's not like it's bad, but
No,
it's
for sure.
not like
Yeah,
it
it didn't
doesn't.
do what you thought it did the first time.
Right, yeah. And so I was a little disappointed. I enjoyed the stories, but I was almost more like, all right, like let's just get through briefcases. Like
Yeah.
let's just
Yeah.
let's
I think
just
that's
talk about it and be done with it.
yep. I think I would probably be on the same page as
Yeah.
that. Like you said, I don't want to discount them because they are super fun, and you get a lot of kind of Easter eggs and stuff that you
Yeah.
would never find out if you haven't read them, which is cool. But
Right.
yeah, it's like a nice little, you know,
Little
I guess
break, I
little
guess.
chunk, but not anything crazy.
Yeah, it's a little stopping point on our way
Yep.
to peace talks, and that's
Yep.
going to be super fun in the next like month or whenever we do it. We're gonna bring on. I need to start reaching out to the Dresden Files podcast to get them on for Battleground.
Yep.
I think that would be really cool. We'll have like Gavin on for Gavin and probably Jake
Yep.
for peace talks. And then it's Battleground, and then
Yeah.
pretty. I think my theory is that we see the next Dresden Files book at the end of this year.
Be
I
awesome.
think we do. I think we see it in like September or maybe October,
Yep.
because he's done with it. Like he has
Yeah.
written it. It's gone off to his editor. He'll send it back to Jim. Jim, I think, has said in the past that he has a really quick editing process where he gets it like 99% of the way there. He sends it to the editor. They make a couple corrections and then he corrects it and then it goes.
Nice.
Um, so hopefully we
That'd be
see it
awesome, dude.
at like the end of the year, man.
Should
That
be an
would be,
action-packed year for releases, books,
yeah.
games. Awesome.
Yeah, we have a ton of stuff coming out. We have Empire of the whatever the third Empire of the
Hmm.
Vampire is coming out in November. I think we're actually getting a name reveal for that soon. It might have
Sweet.
been today. Let me see. He was like, "Oh, it's coming Thursday." He's like, "Empire of the Vampire title reveal this Thursday. Any guesses? Like, share, and
Oh, it
comment
is.
below."
I got the T right. That's funny.
Empire of the.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. That's cool. He should give whoever gets it right should get like a free Empire of the Vampire Diaries.
oh shit.
That's awesome.
Oops. There we go. Yeah, Empire. Yeah, I wrote Empire of the
Yeah.
Vampire Diaries. Like Empire of the Empire, Empire of the I step out of the shower and it was all a dream. Empire of the young adult section. Empire of the Grail, Empire of the Potatoes. Okay, so yeah, it's an action packed year as far as like as far as releases. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much all I had for general thoughts. I think the best parts of the book were like Jim's notes at the
Yeah,
beginning
yeah,
and him just kind of like saying, various little things
yep,
about characters or the story or whatever. Okay, so let's talk about Fistful of Warlocks. This is the first story we come in contact with.
yep.
Jim Butcher says that he would love to turn this into its own 5 book series, but there's no way that he would ever have the time. Um, and, part of me is like, I'll always take more Dresden Files, but another part of me is like, I don't think I need a 5 book series about Lucio in the Wild West. I don't
Yeah.
know. Does that sound interesting to you or
I
no?
mean, no, it'd be cool to get maybe a little bit more on like Kemmler's stuff, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Like he turns into like this very big bad,
right.
you know, like to the world. And so it'd be cool
Yeah,
to kind of see maybe like her and him having their little, battles,
yeah.
duking it
That
out or
that'd be
whatever. But
cool.
I don't know if you could get 5 books out of it.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I'm like that's. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'd certainly read it, but I don't know if I would like it as much as like
Yeah,
Dresden Files proper.
yeah, yeah.
She rides in on a Nakin, which is like a Fey being that is in service to her.
Yeah, I was
And
just looking up what a Nakin was,
oh,
and
is there a thing?
well, kind of. The Nakin, Nixie, Kelpie, or any number of other names is a Fae known to be a trickster. Its true form is a scaly and slimy, larger reptile.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
and it convinces people to ride them before drowning them in water. They only show up in one short story, so we don't have much detail, but I think it's still a neat template. So it's kind of like, it's a trickster, like the fetch or like one of those. So,
Yeah.
but it's interesting. I would love to wonder how she bound it. How
Yeah.
she like what does it owe her? What did she do for it? Or how did she catch it? And something, because he's obviously
Mm-hmm.
in service to her for some reason, and he can't. You know,
Right. Yeah, there's something that transpired that made it, beholden to her.
yeah,
And she kind of hints at it, but she doesn't really say like exactly,
yeah,
what she did to either gain its favor or gain its service or whatever. Um, but I think it's cool how like Jim Butcher just has a way of like finding all of these like random supernatural entities that he
yep.
brings into his books, and they're all like from real world
Mythology,
mythology.
yeah.
It's
He
pretty
even
cool.
says that in the beginning of, I think it's one of the Bigfoot ones, where he's talking about like, I take pride in the fact that I've pulled,
Yeah.
all the creatures you read in this book are from lore,
Hmm.
like from somebody's stories, basically,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah. It's
cool.
super cool. So she walks into the bar, and she's got these glasses that allows her to see people's auras. And I thought this was really interesting because this is different than how Dresden does it, and it's kind of cool because it reminds you that every wizard, even though they all have to obey the same like magical laws as far as like physics and stuff, they all do their magic like a little bit differently. So like Harry opens up his sight sometimes to like see the truth of things, but she's developed these glasses, and that's something that Anastasia is really good at because she's also the one that makes the swords for the wardens. So I kind of get the feeling that she is like a magical engineer,
Yeah,
kind of like a
yeah,
magical like tinkerer
yep,
kind of
yep,
person.
totally.
Um, so yeah, she's got these glasses that lets her see people's auras, and she can see like who's angry or who's got like a big aura or whatever.
Yep,
Um, and she's hunting a warlock who we later find out is like Kemmler and Grovane.
yep.
And then Wyatt asks
Yeah, I was
for
gonna
her
say, what did you think of
guns.
Wyatt?
Yeah, I liked him. I don't
Yep.
think I liked the that was another thing I could have said in the general thoughts is what did you think of all the different narrators? Like there was a lot, like
Yeah,
we had
yeah.
like
I mean,
6 or 7 different
yeah.
narrators.
Coming from listening to the narrator,
James.
James Marsters on the
Mm-hmm.
Dresden Files proper. It's really hard to accept anything else.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
We're kind of spoiled rotten. So I think,
Right.
at least for me, I think that has a thing to play. But
Yeah.
overall, I don't think they were bad narrators, but it wasn't
Sure.
James Marsters. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah, especially like the way that the lady did the voice for I understand wanting to have like a female narrator for
yeah,
Lucio, but the way Lucio described him and the way the narrator did his voice were like in complete
mm,
contradiction.
yeah,
Like she described him as like this super hot, like smooth talking southern boy who was like kind of a badass, like he was
yep,
like quietly a badass. And then the lady doing his voice, it sounded like, did you ever watch Hey Arnold?
yeah, yeah,
You know, like the southern boy who is like tall and he wears like the green shirt and he's got the really tall head with
yep,
like the hair that goes straight up. He goes, "Well, I'll be like," just like very
yep,
like squeaky southern voice. That's what he sounded like. And I'm like, I'm not getting like super hot and confident
yeah,
sheriff
yeah.
vibe.
That's fair.
So that was the only thing I didn't like about him. But as a character, I thought he was cool.
Yeah,
Um, I thought it was cool how he was like he knew about the supernatural. Like as soon as they, went back to his offices, he's like, "You're a wizard." He's like,
yep,
"He's a warlock." Like I know, and she's
yeah.
like, "What?"
Yeah, and then he says like he did some work with like Divinatory and some
hmm
other agencies, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, he's part of the Venator. He doesn't have any magic himself, but he works with them and he's like very, very clued in.
Yep.
So that was cool. He knows what this guy is, and this guy is like, my friends are gonna come for me. I love the scene where like there's just like a knock at the door, and uh, Wyatt Wyatt Earp, he like goes up to the door with his shotgun against it and he's like listening to hear where his voice is
Yep.
and he's like carefully like adjusting his shotgun like just a little bit up
Yep.
because he can hear like where his like face is
Yep.
basically.
Yep.
I thought that was a really good scene and the guy was like, just give him back and we'll leave. Like we won't bother this town or anything. We'll just move on. He's like, nope, I think I need to kill the warlocks. Like I think I need to
Yeah.
like kill them.
Yep.
And it was a great like shootout, and it was a great
Yep.
like action scene. They summon, they had like undead basically that they
Yep.
were summoning. And then as they all get away, we learn she kills one of them, but we learn that the two that get away are Gravane and Kemmler.
Yep.
And so that was a cool little Easter egg. Like, oh, we know them. Like we know
Yep.
Gravane from Deadbeat. He's the guy that shows up at the
Yep.
morgue. Um, and
He's the
and
guy
so
that
it's
Mouse chomps on.
yeah,
One of my
exactly.
favorite scenes ever.
Yep, yep. So yeah, that was super cool to see them. And then she kind of rides off into the sunset. For some reason, I remembered her giving him a kiss or something, but I guess she doesn't do that. I guess she just
Yeah, they
rides
definitely
off.
like flirt with each other and like,
Yeah,
she's like, maybe once this is over, you could take me out for a drink or something, but like that's
right.
it.
So then we got B is for Bigfoot is the first Bigfoot story.
Yeah, I liked it, and I would probably say I liked it for just the introduction of River Shoulders per se.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, because I really do like that character in the main story and these side characters, and I like the whole throughout these three books. I like Harry kind of rubbing off on him to the point about his kid until obviously the
Yeah.
last thing we'll talk about, but he
Yeah.
finally River pulls his big boy pants up and does what he needs to. But yeah, I mean they were cool, super short.
Yeah.
Very Harry goes and finds the problem and solves it, and then that's
Right.
that's the end of it. It was
Yeah.
kind of cool because this one we get to see Svartalfs for I don't know if it's the
Yeah.
first
This
time.
might be the first
Yeah,
time.
yeah. And so that was kind of cool to see them, out in the wild and kind of see how they operate a little bit.
Yeah, because when we see them in the main series, they are allied with Harry.
Yeah.
But this Svartalf is very antagonistic.
Yep.
He's like, I will kill you. Like, I
Yeah.
will have no problem like
Yep.
tearing you apart.
Yep.
Um, and even later on in Bombshells, we see Etri,
Yeah.
um, how powerful his magic is, where he just like opens up the floor for a second and the Fomor drops into it and then he closes the floor around him again.
Yep.
And it's like, holy crap, these things are so powerful and so scary.
Yep.
So yeah, pretty cool, I think. But yeah, I do like the initial scene where like Harry gets a call and he doesn't know who called him. Like it's someone
Yep.
from the reservation that like contacted him, said, "I want you to meet me out in the woods." Um, and so Harry does, and he's like, "I don't know what's coming. Um, I don't know what's gonna be like coming out here to meet me. So I'm gonna start a campfire and I'm gonna sit over here in the shadows."
Yep.
And he like does that. He's just like sitting there all like crouched, like ready to run.
Yep.
And River Shoulders comes out and sits down and just like sits there for like minutes. And then eventually he like looks over at Harry. He's like, "Are you done over there?" And Harry's like, "Oh my God, he
Yeah.
can see me because he
Yep.
can see perfectly at night."
Yep.
And so it was like, I don't know. I just love the introduction where River Shoulders, he doesn't understand like things that humans do necessarily.
Yep.
So he didn't like go up right away to Harry and introduce himself. He's like, "Well, this must be like how humans greet each other."
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where he's like, "Are we done doing this?" Like,
Yeah.
it was so
Yep.
funny.
Yep.
And then he asks Harry for smokes. Harry doesn't have smokes this
Got
time,
any
but he
smokes?
brings them the next two times.
Yep.
And we learn that the Sasquatches have a relationship with some of the people on the reservation
Yep.
that help them make phone calls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We learn that River Shoulders has some sort of relationship with this archaeologist lady, who is described as being like almost as tall as Dresden is, very like
Yep.
muscular and stuff. So she's able to like be with Bigfoot kind of because she's like a very large
Crazy
human.
to think about, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. He's like, the heart wants what the heart wants, or she says that she's like, the heart wants what the heart wants. So then we find out that Erwin Pounder, their son, is getting bullied by two young scions of the Svartalfs.
Yep.
They're encouraged by this coach who is also like a pure Svartalf. And Harry kind of watches this throughout the day. And then he goes up to Erwin. He's like, "Hey, like, you got to stand up for yourself." And he doesn't want to fight anybody. He's like, "I
Yep.
don't want to hurt anybody." Because he probably knows that he's really, really
Yeah.
strong.
Yep.
And so that I liked that side of his character where he's got all of this power, but he's like really afraid to use it.
Yep.
And Harry tells him, like, I love the talk that he had with him where he's like, "Okay, so like people communicate in different ways. Some people communicate this way, some people communicate that way, but bullies, they don't communicate through talking. The only thing they understand is a physical confrontation."
Yep. And he also says to him too, I think the thing that turns the tide for Erwin is Harry's like, "Listen, if you were to stand up for yourself, you would be doing these two boys a favor, right? You would be teaching them that some prey is not too much for them to handle, right?"
Mm.
And I think that's when he was like, "Okay, all right. See,
Right.
I can do this in a way where I'm not going to hurt anybody, but also show them, you better be
Yeah.
careful who you mess with."
Yeah, and he's kind of saving like other kids, because Harry even says like, he's like, what if they do listen to you? He's like, what if you talk to them and they do listen to you and they leave you alone? They're gonna go bully some other kid
Yeah.
and they're never gonna stop.
Yep.
He's like, you can put a stop to it and you can like fight back essentially and put this vicious cycle to an end.
Yeah.
Um, and so Erwin eventually does. There's a little bit of conflict between the Svartalf and Harry, where he's like, if you get involved, like, I will have no problem killing you. Like, I
Yep. And
will.
then Harry says the same thing to him. He's like, listen, he did your boys a favor. And the
Yep,
Svartalf is like, okay, I see. All right,
yep,
I'll let this go.
yep. So yeah, that's kind of the end of that.
Yep.
And I also liked that Bigfoot paid him in like a nugget of gold.
Yes. Which the way he described it, it's probably like, $7,000 or $8,000 worth of gold,
Right.
which is awesome. And then in the last book, Harry keeps saying, I should have just took the gold.
I know, I should have just taken the gold. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. So then we have 4A Wizardry, and this comes. Did I mention when the Bigfoot thing happens?
You
It's
didn't.
pretty. It's pretty early in the series. I can look it up, but 4A Wizardry comes just after Proven Guilty. Or actually, hang on. Yeah, so B is for Bigfoot takes place between Full Moon and Grave Peril.
Okay.
So pretty early on.
Yep.
And then 4A Wizardry comes just after Proven Guilty, which is right around this time with Proven Guilty and Molly being his apprentice. And then in White Knight, he goes out to Mexico with those kids.
Yep.
And he's like teaching them. So he's got like something about the Red Court war going
Yeah.
on and all of this. He's like teaching a lot of wizards.
Yeah.
And so I wish I had gone back and reread this. But he talks about the 4A's of wizardry. It's like assessment,
Ascertain.
ascertain,
The last one, or the third one, I think, is assemble.
assemble, yeah.
The second one, acknowledge, maybe?
Acknowledge. Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not as confident about that one.
Analysis is the second one.
Analysis. Okay.
So we have ascertain, analysis, assemble,
And arrogance.
oh yeah, well yeah, arrogance is the fifth one.
Oh.
He initially says all four, and I think they end with assemble, and then he's like, and there's one more A. Oh no, the third A is assemble and act. So
Okay.
ascertain, analysis, analyze, and act. And then the fifth one is arrogance, which I thought was so good. This might be my favorite story.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
Yeah, I really like this because I liked how it went. It went back and forth between the classroom and this story that he's telling.
Yep.
Because there's this moment he's like telling this story, and then there's this moment where he says, he's like, it was one of the A's. He's like, can you be absolutely certain that you know everything? And the kids are like, well, of course we can. Like, if I followed all the steps and I looked at all the clues and like I put it all together, like I'm a wizard, like I know.
Yep.
And he's like, but can you be sure?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh man, it was so, I loved it wasn't like a huge twist, but
Yeah.
it was just enough of one to where, you have these kids that are having nightmares and there's like this boogeyman in the closet. So Harry's trying to help her like figure out how to trap the boogeyman. And when it finally comes out, it's like this giant thing that's like killing her. And I forget. Do you remember how he even like kills it? Like
Yeah. So it's a lot more. It's like supercharged on ghost adrenaline or whatever he says,
fear,
and
yeah.
he starts panicking because this is way bigger than a normal boogeyman. And she's in the circle with it, trapped, and it's like attacking her. And Harry's like, "Tell it to be gone. Tell it and mean it. Tell it to be gone."
Yeah.
And she does, and she just screams, "Be gone," with all her heart. And it was enough to banish it. But then later he says, when he's talking to the kids, he's like, the arrogance, just like you were talking about. He's like, "I thought I knew, but in reality, the brother's terrible things he saw at work was like supercharging this ghost. So it was way worse. I should have done it different." And then the line, the Yardleys turned out mostly all right, purely out of dumb luck. They deserve better from me and from you, talking to the kids. And I was like, that's awesome.
It was such a good line. Like, I loved, and they were all like feeding on each other, because Megan, she's already an empath.
Yeah.
And then her kids have a small amount of talent that's like mind reading or something like that. I forget exactly what it is, but they're all like, he comes over and he feeds all of these like bad things to them. Like unknowingly.
Yeah.
And they pick up on it and like hold it with them. And then like maybe the mom is like the one that picks up on it, and then the kids pull it from the mom. And so it's just like going through the whole family in such a terrible way. And Harry doesn't realize that. He hadn't put all the clues together. And Megan could have lost her life. And matter of fact, the way that the thing attacked her, like, she may never be like fully okay ever again. And if there's one thing that we know about like spiritual attacks in the Dresden Files, is like, you don't really recover from them. Like,
at least not for a long time.
Like if you're spiritually attacked, it takes a long time. Like even Murphy, when she had her thing, I think it was in grave peril, it took her a long time to come back from that. But yeah, he says, arrogance is the fifth A. We carry it around with us. It's natural. We know more than most people. And then that's when he says, this turned out okay, purely out of dumb luck. They deserve better from me and from you. It was just such a poignant moment. That's
good
like,
teaching moment.
It was like we all need to, and I think that's something that I really like about the Dresden Files, and of course like Dresden as a character, but I think it's one of the few series that does this, where in a lot of other series, magic is seen as like an intellectual endeavor, and it's seen as like, because it is, but like it seems more of like a kind of this nerdy, like in King's Dark Tidings, like all of the wizards are like kind of nerds about it. Like they all like talking about magic, and it's very like fun. But in this series, I kind of like that Harry is like, no, you can like fuck things up with magic. He's like, you need to be super prepared, because once you start playing with the elements of creation of the universe, you can easily mess things up. And so I've always loved this thing about Harry, where he holds himself and everyone else to a very, very high standard.
Makes him a really good teacher.
So then we get the next Bigfoot one. I Was a Teenage Bigfoot, set right after Deadbeat.
This one was probably my least favorite.
I would agree.
I
would agree. It's so quick. It's so fast. Like, it has like some good lines and stuff, but it was just like over so fast. He like, Erwin is now at like a prestigious boarding school. He's very sick, but Harry knows that scions can't get sick. Or at least Bigfoot tells him that. And I love this. He walks into the nurse's area where Erwin is, and she's like super hot, and he says, "Hello, nurse." And she says, "Nothing sexier than a greeting from Yakko and Wacko." And then he says, "What was I supposed to do?" And later on, he like stays while she like runs tests and stuff. And she's like, "Oh, you're still here." And he's like, "What was I supposed to do?" And she says, "Leave me a number to call with the results." And he says, "If it makes you feel any better, I can still do that." And she says, I'm taking a break from dating cartoon characters and the children that love them. Now, a quiz for you, Gabe. Do you know who Yakko and Wacko are?
I don't.
It is the Animaniacs.
I don't even know what that is.
No, Google it. You probably recognize them if you see them. They're like, they look like cats, kind of. Um, and they had this whole thing, like, one of them was like the goofy one. I mean, they're all goofy, but one of them was like the very goofy
I
one.
never watched it.
You never seen it? Oh my
Yep.
God. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure like I've seen covers and stuff, but it was never a
Sure.
cartoon that I watched.
Yeah, let me look. Yeah, the one in the red hat. I don't know what they are. They kind of look like cats or like
They
fleas or
just look like
something.
little Mickey Mouse things.
Yeah, the one in the red hat, he would always be like, "Hello, nurse,"
Mm,
and that was like his
yeah,
thing.
that's cool.
But yeah. Anyways, it's
1993. Yeah, that was before my time, man.
yeah, it's a very like '90s cartoon. I used to love Animaniacs. Um, so yeah, that's what that's from. And then he sees Irwin and his aura. He uses sight, and Irwin's aura is punctured and damaged. It's
Yep.
got all these holes in it. It's a very big aura, but it's very damaged. And so Harry asserts himself, and like with the nurse, he's like, I am staying. He's like, I am not leaving. I am paid to look after Irwin, and I'm not leaving.
Yep.
And she's like, you think something's being done to him? He's like, I know it is. Um, and he's like, how do you figure that? And she's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what it would be, but it seems like we're on the same page about somebody doing this to
Yeah.
Irwin. And then we get an attack. We get like the coolest part of the short story, I think,
Yep.
or one of them, where security comes in, tells him he needs to leave, and Harry's like, "You don't want to do this. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to do
You guys
this."
don't know what you're gonna get yourselves into. Sure
He's like,
enough.
"You have no idea." And he releases the Force ring with a Forzari. He's like,
Yeah.
"Forzari!" And he like sends him down the hall and through the door.
Yep.
And then the other two guys decide like he can't possibly do that again. And Harry goes, "Hi-ya!" And
Yep.
like like pretends to like karate chop him or whatever, punch him or whatever, and he sends another Forzari and sends them flying too. Yeah, I thought that was just like
Yeah.
super funny how like he's like, you guys are like just like you're very big and muscular, but you are just mortals and you
Yep.
are like my plaything.
That's right.
And just sends them flying. So then Harry tracks down the curse to Fabio's office. He asks the nurse, he's like, what's in that direction? She's like, oh, it's, the offices and stuff. And he goes into Fabio's office, who has a shrine set up with, there was something linking Fabio and Irwin.
Yeah. I think it was a lock of his hair.
Yeah. Harry informs him that he's with the White Council, and Fabio just about shits himself.
Yep.
This was interesting. I did not remember this, that Fabio actually he knew
Yeah.
about the White Council, and it turns out that he's part of the Venatori as well. And he was, he doesn't want the council on his heels.
Yep.
And so Harry decides that he is he's not really a threat. He made a bad decision, but he's not like too much of a threat. And so he's like, you know what? I'm not going to tell the council about you, but if you ever touch magic again, if you ever try any sort of ritual or anything like that ever again, then, we'll be on your ass.
Yep.
And I love when Fabio's like, he's like, I've called Irwin's mom and she's on her way down here. He's like, are you going to tell her what I did? And he says, you bet your ass I am.
Yep.
It is such a great line.
Yep. She probably beat the shit out of him.
Right. And so yeah, then he goes back into Irwin's room, and Irwin is feeling way better. But the nurse still will not go out with him.
Yep. Surprise, surprise, Harry.
Mhm. One thing we didn't mention is the reason that Fabio is doing all of this
Yeah,
is to
stupid.
grow his
So
hair.
stupid. He's like, what about Rogaine, man?
Yeah, he's like Rogaine didn't work, hair plugs didn't work, and it's so funny to remember that people sometimes just use magic for like mundane
Yeah, really
things.
dumb stuff.
Like it's not always like throwing fireballs or stuff
Yep.
like that. It's just like growing your hair back. Like okay, so then we have curses, which takes place between small favor and turncoat. Do you have any initial thoughts on this one?
Not really, other than it was just kind of a silly little nod to the, you
Mm,
know, the
the Billy
Cubs or
Goat
what? Yeah,
curse.
the Billy Goat curse, which is kind of cool, and it's cool that I always like it when we see like a new faction, right? Because
Yeah,
we haven't seen the Telltag before this, or
yeah,
even King Gwyneth Abnuth of the
yeah.
Telltag, who I think. Oh, we can't talk about that yet. Never mind.
Oh, does he come into play in Peace Talks or Battleground?
Yeah. Well, just very,
Oh,
very briefly, but yeah.
interesting. I'll have to keep my eyes out for him.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I liked seeing him as well, and the whole thing with Jill, who's part of the like
Yep.
a Fey tribe called
Yeah.
the
What?
Jilly Fruitin.
The Jilly fruit, and that's it. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's cool. Just super sexy,
Yeah,
Irish girl. I don't
I'm
know. I
like,
thought
oh
this.
my God, that's like the
Yeah.
girl of my dreams. Me and redheads, man, I swear to
Yeah.
God. Um, yeah, so our first scene is we get a representative from the Cubs team who visits Harry, and Harry like openly tells him that he's gonna get every single penny that he can from him
Yeah.
just because he knows he's desperate and he's wearing like a nice suit.
Yep.
And the guy's like, "You're just gonna tell me this?" And Harry's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You can walk out the door right now. Like,
Yeah. I don't
it
care if
doesn't
you want
matter to
my
me."
help. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he wants Harry to block the curse while the Cubs play their championship deciding game. Harry needs to look for info. He visits a bar and hits on Jill, who turns out to be part of the Jillyfrutin because he keeps using the word fairy, and her and the henchmen behind Harry get like upset.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she's like trying to distract him with her boobs.
Yep. Yep.
She takes him to meet with Gwyn, or what'd you call him? Gwyneth?
Gwyneth Abnuth.
Gwyneth Abnuth.
That's his like full name. King of the Teletag.
Nice. Uh, who's in charge of the curse. And like she takes him down like this really trippy passage with like glowing mushrooms and
Yep.
stuff and whatnot. Um, and yeah, she takes him to him. Is Gwyneth Abnuth? Is
Or
he from
Gwyn
Iron?
Abnuth.
Gwyn
Gwyn
Abnuth
Abnuth. Yeah.
is he from Iron Druid as well?
Um. No, I don't think they talk about the Teletag in Iron Druid. They should though, because
Yeah.
the female main character is like she could easily be a Jilly Furden.
Oh, cool.
She's a super hot redhead with big boobs.
So Gwyn talks about how he snuck into the World Series as a goat and was removed because of his smell. And Harry thinks it's funny that there's like this contradiction between him like taking pride in being like the best goat that he could
Yeah.
possibly be, but also being upset that they were like not happy with the way he smelled.
Yep.
He's like, I was a goat, of course I smelled.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So he's carried this grudge for a long time. He renews the curse on the stadium like week after week or however long it takes. And then because of Harry's reputation and how much favor he's garnered with the Fae, Gwyn says that he will remove the curse if Harry wants him to. Now, obviously, Jim was in kind of a bind here because like the Cubs like still have this curse notoriously. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't follow baseball, but from what I understand, um, and so it's not like Jim wouldn't be able to solve the curse in this book because it wouldn't mirror like the real world, and
Yeah.
he tries to mirror like modern day
Yep.
Chicago. And so Gwen says that he will remove the curse if he wants him to. Harry meets with the original guy that came in and says that
The
the
curse
curse is gonna
stays.
stay.
Yep.
Yeah. And then he says like he's like, look, you guys make a lot of money from this. Like the whole team, like this community rallies around the
Yep.
Cubs because of the quote unquote curse. Like
Yeah.
they believe that someday they will break the curse, and that's what keeps them coming back week after week is like, what if you're there for the one game where they really pull it off, you
Yep.
know? And he says baseball is about fun, and the fans rally around their losing team. It's created a community. Not to mention that support gets the team management lots and lots of money.
Yep.
So then we see Harry go to the deciding baseball game, and he sits with the Tell with Tag, who asks Harry if he'd like him to remove the curse for the game. And Harry says, let's not talk business. Let's just enjoy the game. And he gets them a couple beers and hot dogs and sits down with Gwen. I'm like, what a cool
Yeah, that is awesome.
moment. And then Gwen, a little bit of just cool, like magical theory here is Gwen confirms that someday they will break the curse because now there's more humans, and the more that humans believe in something, the more like it'll become magically true,
Yep.
which would like
Yep.
fight the curse. So the more that the fans believe that they will break the curse, the more they eventually will.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. Like there's other points in the series where we see like, the more someone believes in something, the more it becomes true. But it's kind of cool how it plays into the curse because it does kind of go back to like this community of people that like rally around the team, and like they really really believe that someday their team will win again, and so therefore someday they will.
Yep. Yep.
And so I just thought that was a cool little piece of a little piece of magic. He specifically says they're going to fight through it eventually.
Yep.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
That is cool.
Then we get Even Hand, and this is between Turncoat and Changes, and this is Marcone's story.
Yeah.
It starts with him brutally assassinating two men and letting the third go.
Yep.
One of them was selling heroin to 13-year-old girls, and another was pimping them out. He sent the bookkeeper back to Morelli as a sign of respect because he says that he's like, you can get a million drug dealers and pimps, but a good bookkeeper is hard to find, so I'm going to send him back to Morelli.
Yep.
And then Guard says, like, she's like, is that the only reason you killed the other two? And he's like, it was just business. And she's like, are you sure? And he's like, it was just business. But you kind of hear in his inner monologue that like he has rules against children,
Yep.
and that he won't let people hurt children on his territory.
Yep.
And like Guard doesn't believe him for a second. Like she knows this.
Yeah.
So then we learn something interesting that I don't think I even picked up until this read through. His original name is not John Marcone. And so he said it's not the name he was born with, but it's the name that he picked up while doing his gangster shit.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wonder if this will come into play later in the series, because we know that names have power. And kind of like Loch Lamora, or anything in like Name of the Wind. Like if a being doesn't know your real name, do they really have any power over you? If he's lost his original name, because even he says, he's like, he alludes to the fact that he can't even remember what his real name is. He's gone by John Marcone for so long. And so I wonder if that'll ever play a part magically in future books where like a being or maybe even Harry is trying to like go after him, but because John Marcone is not his real name, they can't. Yeah. I think that'd be super interesting.
That would be interesting.
Because I'm like, why else would Jim Butcher put that in?
Say that, yeah.
Yep. And I like this inner monologue. He says, I am not made of stone, but I've learned it often is best to behave as if I am.
Yep.
And this is when Justine shows up with the baby, and she's like, don't you care about protecting the baby? And he's like, no, I don't. And then in his inner monologue, he's like, I'm not made of stone, but I've learned that I need to pretend I am.
Yep.
And that just makes me like Marcone so much more.
Yep. Likewise.
Yeah. I love him so much.
And also his tact is just always so impressive. Like when he's dealing with political situations such as this.
Yeah.
When Justine's trying to, use his weakness per se.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he kind of just stomps on that, even though it's still there. He stomps on it just as a form of, him just showing her like what he is, right?
And
I'm
like
a monster
showing her
on the
like
outside, but maybe not on the inside type thing.
Right.
But then when he starts dealing with the Fulmar, I just really admire him for just being so incredibly tactile. Like
right.
He's a friggin' genius, dude.
Yep.
With his
and
words.
very professional and very like calculating.
Yeah, calculated. Yeah, that's like the best word for Marcone.
So good.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he says that he should give her back to the Fulmar that's on her tail because she is stolen property in possession of more stolen property. And he's like, I have to give you back. It's just business.
Yep.
And Hendrix looks at him disapprovingly, and we find out that Hendrix doesn't like killing. Which is crazy.
Not only that, but he says that Hendrix is like working on a thesis or like working on.
He was working on his thesis.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. There's a lot more going on with Hendrix than we'll ever fully know.
Yeah.
And he says that Guard didn't like this either. Like while he was, so he's sitting there with Justine with his fingers steepled.
Yep.
And he's trying to decide what to do with her.
Yeah.
Behind her is Hendrix and Guard.
Yep.
Hendrix is giving him a disapproving look. And then Marcone says, Guard watched me. As ever, Guard watched me.
Yep.
And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, is Guard, like, first of all, how is he able to afford Guard? Like, we don't know. I mean, obviously he has a lot of money, but we don't know anyone else in the series who has a Valkyrie as a bodyguard.
Yeah, and not only that, but Guard is Guard's like one of the Valkyrie.
Right.
Like she is like, there's a ton of Valkyrie in Valhalla, but she's like, she's right-hand man to the king himself, pretty much.
Right.
Or right-hand woman.
Odin. Like,
yeah.
Like, I kind of wonder if this line alludes to the idea that Odin has taken, like, a special interest in Marcone and has kind of, like, given him Guard. Like, I'm sure Marcone, like, pays crazy amounts of money to Odin. But I also think that, like, I think that most people wouldn't be able to just hire Guard.
No.
Like, I kind of wonder if Odin is like...
more in it than money. Or maybe there was, like, Marcone managed to do something that really helped Odin out and, like, won his favor somehow.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'd be really cool to figure out at some point.
I kind of wonder because when Harry goes into Odin's office, there's the eye with the line through it, and it's known as, like, the ever-watching eye. Mm-hmm. And then it says here, like, Guard watched me as ever, Guard watched me, like the ever-watching eye.
Yep.
And so I'm like, I wonder if Odin is like, keep an eye on him. Like,
Yeah.
let's keep an eye on Marcone and see what happens with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I found that fascinating.
It
It's this
is.
line that like tripped me up where I'm like, I think there's more to this than
Yep.
we've been led to believe.
Yep.
Um, so then he comes to a conclusion. He says, it's just business, but I have rules. And he releases all his contractors for the day and sets up his defenses.
Which again, and this little sentence where he says that he's like, "Guard, why don't you release all the contractors today on full pay with, just like lists out these very professional things."
Right.
I don't know. I just find that so. It
Yeah.
just makes me smile.
I know. I love it. I love it when he goes into like professional mode and he's like snapping orders, but they're all
Yep.
like very
Very
organized, very like
calm, and
clean.
he's just like talking like normal, but you
Mhm.
take them as God's written word, right?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
Marcone.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
He uses World War II era night vision, which I think is kind of funny. It's like this old night vision that doesn't work super well, but it can't be put out with
Yep. By magic. Yeah.
magical anything. And then we learn, yeah, Hendrix disapproves of killing. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Marcone has the hallway laced with ball-bearing landmines, which is what we saw in Skin Game.
Yep.
And so I thought that was pretty interesting because I think this happens between Turncoat and Changes. So this is well before.
Yeah.
This is well before Skin Game. Well, yeah, it's well before Skin Game.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder. Oh shit, we can't talk about that. Okay, dang it.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, he's got the landmines. He's kind of figuring out how he's gonna have defenses against magical people.
Yep.
And then he ends up it wasn't King Corb. I forget who it was, but
no, it was one of their like he was like a captain or something.
Yeah,
but right. He was a higher ranking.
Right.
Fomor.
Right. And so yeah, the Fomor makes his way through all of the defenses, and then he gets to in front of Marcone, and Marcone has a rune-etched pistol with a rune-etched bullet, and shoots the Fomor with it and kills him.
Yep.
And then Guard says, he's like, we need more of those bullets. And Guard's like, do you have any idea how long that took me to make? That was like 8 months of work to get this bullet.
Yep. She said you had to pull it out of like a famous warrior. And not only that, she was out for like, I think 3 months sketching the rune itself. She's
right.
Like, I was out for 3 weeks, sound asleep after I sketched that rune. I was like, geez, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So they're not easy to come by.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. We still don't understand how Guard's runes work.
Nope.
And I wish that we would get that info at some point.
Yeah.
So then Marcone talks to Justine, and he finds a piece of paper with stolen information from the Fomors. Laura had used her to get the info and then run to Marcone to take care of their Fomor problem with them, because Laura knew that if Justine had a kid with her, Marcone would, it ensured that Marcone would protect them.
Yep.
But Marcone knows this, and he's not too happy with it, so he takes the stolen info.
Yeah.
And he tells Justine to take the kid to St. Mary's. He says that he says something like, next time Laura wants to kick a beehive, don't have someone else.
My doorstep.
Yeah, don't bring the bees to my doorstep or something like that. I thought that was a really good analogy. Yeah. He then notes that the building will need to be set on fire and demolished, and they will rebuild somewhere else. But this whole ordeal proves that these defenses will work against none other but then Harry Dresden. Yep. He knows that eventually they'll need to square up and have a fight, and when he does, will need to be in a location of his choosing, like this place. And at the beginning of the short story, it opens with him saying, uh, in order to do the perfect murder, it's all about location. In order to commit the perfect murder, it's all about location, location, location. And then at the very end here, he says, he's like, you can take down a wizard, but it's all about location, location,
Yeah.
location. And so I liked how he like kind of brought it full circle.
Yep.
Um, and it makes you wonder. It's like, man, is something gonna happen in the future? Like, I hope they don't ever have like a fight to the death, because
Yeah.
I love
No, I
Marcom.
know. Yeah. Yeah. I love both of them.
Yeah,
Would suck.
yeah. But pretty interesting. He's prepared. He's a lot more prepared than I think anybody thinks he is.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. So then we get Bigfoot on campus. Harry is talking to the dean of a school that is looking out for his kids. He says that Harry was found in the middle of an orgy with blood everywhere and a car on the fourth floor with a hole in the side of the building. And he asks Harry to start explaining.
Yep.
Yeah, what'd you think of this one? I think this was probably the best Bigfoot story.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I think it's the best Bigfoot story. It has the biggest payoff that I feel like is actually worth something good.
Yeah.
Um, the most action, and I thought a cool little story. Kind of a cool incidents that happens.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if we're gonna see Erwin and Connie in the future.
Yeah, that'd be
Um,
sweet.
yeah,
They could become a power couple, dude. You
yeah,
know?
that'd be sick.
Yeah.
And I also wonder if we'll ever see this White Court vampire, um, like her dad or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
I think that'd be really interesting, because characters from these side stories are showing up in the main series.
Yep.
Not to like spoil anything, but like characters from this book we'll see in the main series. From these short stories. So, hopefully we'll see. Hopefully we'll see Erwin. Bigfoot wants Harry to help his son again, but instead of payment, Harry wants Bigfoot to meet his kid. And this is an interesting parallel, and Jim says as much in the note for this
Yeah.
book, because this is before. This has got to be before changes. I don't have it written here, but it's got to be, because otherwise Maggie would have been referenced.
Yeah.
But Jim said that this was meant to be, Harry telling someone else how to parent, and then later on other people would be telling Harry how to parent, and he'd be upset. He'd be like, "You don't know the situation."
Yeah.
But the funny thing is he's already given that same advice to River Shoulders, who is having the same reaction as Harry eventually does with Maggie in like Cold Days or whatever.
Yep.
And yeah, Bigfoot says, that it wouldn't be good for Erwin to meet him. He's helping him from afar by sending Harry to look out for him. And Harry's essentially like, yeah, but he needs his dad. Like he needs his dad to be there. So I thought that was kind of an interesting parallel. But when Harry shows up, he finds Erwin dating a White Court vampire who doesn't know that she's a White Court vampire.
Yep.
She's been inadvertently feeding on him and has been fine because he has a huge aura.
Yep.
After the dinner, Erwin gets upset because he can tell that Harry is like, I don't know if this girl is good for you,
Yeah.
but it's also not my place to say that she's not good for you.
Yep.
And so she stays with Harry while Erwin runs off. And that's when her dad shows up. He's a White Court vampire who is at the Wraith Deeps. He takes her away and tells Harry he has until midnight to get out of town.
Yep.
So Harry goes to Bigfoot. He calls Wild Bill, and Bigfoot says, don't get involved anymore. Like, I'll take care of it. And Harry's kind of like, yeah, but it could be like time to a Sasquatch is like way different. Like,
Yep.
to him, he may deal with it in like years, like that
Yeah.
he needs to deal with it now. And so Harry goes back to the college. He goes to the dorms where there's a massive orgy going on. Erwin is literally pounding Connie in the corner.
Yep.
And she's doing her vampire thing, like taking from his life source. And her dad, super creepy, is standing there watching.
Yeah.
And he's like inciting the lust in the room. And I'm like, is this Butcher's like barely disguised fetish? Like is this his like just his little like I don't know. I was like what is this?
Yeah.
But yeah, Harry tries to stop him. He gets knocked out by the guards. When he wakes up, he's restrained and told that he's next after Erwin.
Yep.
And Bigfoot shows up. All hell breaks loose. He throws the car through the side of the building.
Yep.
And then it gets to the point where Connie's father is like running away, and Erwin catches up to him, and he beats the living shit out of him. Butcher literally uses the words "within an inch of his life."
Yep.
And Harry notes that would start conflict with the.
So he has Connie stop him.
Yeah, Connie goes up to him and she like calms him down and pulls him away. She's like, "That's my father. Like I know he did this, but it's still my father." And then they get to meet River Shoulders, and River Shoulders kind of explains, he's like, "We need to get out of here and I can explain more." And I wish we had been privy to that conversation.
Yeah.
But they do kind of, ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
And Harry deals with the fallout. And I loved, same with like 4A Wizardry. We kind of get like this back and forth where Harry is like telling the story to someone while he's sitting in the
jail cell.
In the jail cell with the cop. And so the cop at the end, you think that he's going to be like, "Well, damn, I totally get it now." But the cop's like, "This is crazy. You're going in the drunk take."
Yeah.
But good story, though.
Yeah.
And, like, chains him up, puts him in the cell, and Wild Bill comes out the next morning to bail him out.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I liked it. I liked it felt like it had more of a, like, Dresden Files story to it, and a little bit of like a mystery. It just felt longer. It felt like more what I expected, like something that would have been in like Side Jobs or something.
Yeah.
So then we get Bombshells. What did you think of this one? Because this is taking place, I guess, like after Ghost Story. Yeah, in between Ghost Story and Cold Days.
Yep. I like this one. This one's up there on my. It's up there out of all these, I would say.
Yeah.
Same. I think I enjoyed the scenery and also the characters the most. I thought it was cool that Molly got to kind of team up with the girls, right?
Yeah.
And do kind of a girls thing. I thought that was pretty cool.
That was sweet.
Using their womanly charms to sway minds, and I don't know. It was cool, man. I liked the plot. I also liked the payoff too.
Yeah.
In the main series, I think it's pretty cool. It explains a lot. Later on. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It kind of shows Molly being like on her own and like how she has to deal with things, and kind of, when we're in Ghost Story, Harry sees her and we're getting it from his perspective, right?
Yeah.
So we're not fully understanding what Molly is going through.
Yep.
And so it was nice in this book to get a look at her while she's actively going through all of this, and like, staying at Butter's place, and using, she doesn't have anything, so she's using Andy's razor and stuff like that. And then Andy gets all upset with her, like slaps her and like goes all crazy, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so we see that whole thing, and it was cool to see how people are interacting with her, because we see that a bit in Ghost Story where everybody's like afraid of her. And then like Andy is like, you need to get your shit together.
Yeah.
So.
And then I like after that, Molly comes back like when they're done, and Andy, if you ever hit me
Yeah.
again, you better intend to kill me. I was
Yep.
like, there's the badass Molly.
There's the badass Molly. Yep.
That's the Harry Dresden Molly we know and love.
Right, right. Uh, so yeah, when Justine shows up, she's like, Thomas is missing. She says, why should I help you? And Justine says, if you can't go to family for help, who can you go to? And Molly says in her narration, she says, I was the only thing like an heir to Harry's power around these parts,
Yep.
and she had hoped that I would step into his shoes. And Molly says, you go to friends. Um, and this was also Molly's way of like testing Justine to see if she knew that Thomas and Harry were related.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that Molly does her tracking spell way different than Harry does.
Yeah, she simplifies it a lot. And she even says that like Harry likes to be kind of grand with all these things, but it really doesn't take that much.
Right. Yeah. She starts by figuring out the distance through trigonometry. Like she essentially makes like a triangle on the ground and like figures out how far away it would be. And then she like puts the hair in her mouth and makes like a sensation on her lips. Like once she gets close to like that distance, she puts the sensation on her lips to like kind of guide her.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like Harry, he's got the cord with the crystal, and it'll like float in a direction, or he'll have like the bowl of water with like a needle in it, and the needle will point a certain way. And hers is interesting. She uses like straight up math to figure out the distance. Like Harry could be following his like cord forever and ever and ever before he got there. Leah shows up to tell Molly that that Thomas is being held by the Svartalfs, who revere beauty. They talk about the story of Freya and Loki, who lost her jewelry to the Svartalfs. And Molly was like, yeah, the tale says that she had to kiss every Svartalf to get it back. And Leah says, my child, the Svartalfs most certainly did not give up one of the most valuable jewels in the universe for a society-wide trip to first base.
Yep.
I was like, oh my god, so Freya had to fuck all of the Svartalfs to get her piece of jewelry back. This is crazy.
You saying I need to pull a train to get Thomas out of here?
Right.
Jeez.
Leah says, is your untroubled conscience more valuable than the vampire's life? And Molly says, well, no.
There must be another way.
Yeah, I'm like, so I wonder if there was no other way, if Molly would have banged all the Svartalfs to get Thomas back.
Yeah.
Leah keeps calling Molly smoking hot. She's like, they're going to love you. Yeah, Molly goes back, gets slapped, all that. They dress up like they're all wearing their little black dresses. Yep. And
Justine pulls out the 24-hour white debit card.
Yeah. And they're like, all right.
Pulls out all the stops. Yep.
Yeah. They're like, we're gonna go shopping with an endless supply. Right. Yeah, so they show up. The Svartalfs and Fomar are signing a treaty of non-aggression, which is interesting because we never hear about this in the main series. They were going to basically partner up, which is crazy. But the Svartalfs, maybe they didn't know what they were in for. I don't really understand why. Maybe the Svartalfs were like just trying to stay out of it. And so they were going to sign a treaty of like, hey, like you don't mess with us, we won't mess with you. Yeah. You just do your thing and we'll do our thing. Molly and Andy veil up and they go exploring and they find a hallway with ornate doors with silver numbers. Leah has fed Molly bad info. She's being used as a cat's paw. She led Molly to the conclusion that Thomas needed to be rescued right away. And what ends up happening is she was sent there to kind of deal with the Fomor, try to like disrupt things
Yeah.
and get in the way so that the treaty wouldn't be signed. We find out that the Fomor had given the Red Corps a nerve gas to use on a hospital of wounded wizards. We hear about this hospital being attacked in one of the books. It might have been White Knight or maybe Turncoat or something. But it's interesting to know that the Fomor were involved way back then, because they only pop up for us in Ghost Story and like Cold Days. That's the first time we ever hear about them. So to hear that they were working behind the scenes like way back in like White Knight or somewhere in that era is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Molly references the when you have one problem, you have a problem, but when you have multiple problems, you may have multiple solutions, which is something that Harry mentions, I think, in one of the Bigfoot stories. And it gets said a few times throughout all of these short stories. Molly charges in and deploys the one woman rave, and I'm kind of like, get a new spell, Molly.
Hey, it's done her good so far.
Yeah, it's done her good. But Molly changes the number of on Thomas's door so that the Fomor break into that one instead of the one that Molly's in. And Thomas steps out like pissed off and beats the shit out of all the Fomor. Yep. And then there's like not King Corb, but like one of the other like lieutenants of the Fomor.
Listen.
Well, Listen's there, but she kills. This one gets killed.
Oh.
Listen was there though, and he was described differently than I thought he would be. He's described as like a very handsome, like military-looking man. I'm like, I didn't expect him to look like that.
Yeah.
So the big she just calls him Lord Froggy. And she says, did you kill those girls, or did they volunteer after seeing you with your shirt off? Then there's this interesting piece of magic where Molly is veiled, and the Fomor is questing out with like tendrils of magic to like try to find her, and she keeps sending her own out to kind of like push his away so that he never quite finds the area that she's in. I thought that was really cool. I didn't know that could be done. And then he gets the sprinkler system going to ground out her magic. And she's able to place a memory in his head from changes when she gets shot and like how much pain she was in and everything. Yep. It's like, oh man, she's doing mind magic. And she's putting this memory in his head like at super intensity, and so it's like freaking him out.
Yep.
And then she gets to the bomb.
Yep.
And she asks Andy like blue wire, red wire. She disarms the bomb, but then the frog guy jumps on top of her.
Yep.
And right before he's like about to kill her, Mr. Etri shows up and cuts off his arm or something, cuts off some part of him. And then he tells Froggy that he has violated guest right. And I think it's interesting that the Fomor just do not care about like the supernatural, like anything. Like they don't care about like guest rights. They don't care about like thresholds. They don't care about like, it's like, how do they avoid all of this when everybody else like has to obey these laws of the supernatural world? And the Fomor are just different. And I feel like we just don't know like a whole lot about them.
Yeah.
Okay. So then he like he cuts off the Fomor's arm, then he liquefies the floor under him until he sinks halfway, and then re-solidifies the floor around him. And this is the moment where I'm like, dude, they have magic that we've never seen before. Like, this is crazy. And and his sword flashes again and strikes off the tip of his nose off the Fomor.
Yep.
He like strikes his nose from his face. And Etri says, "You have stained the honor of Svartalfheim." And later, when Harry asks Molly how she got the apartment, she says that she gave them their honor back. And Harry has no idea what she's talking about, and this is how she did it.
Yep.
So then Etri says, like, "We owe you a favor," and she's about to say, "Oh, no worries, don't worry about it." But this isn't social pleasantries.
Yeah.
She says, this was an audit, an accounting.
Yeah, this is how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she is owed a favor by Svartalfheim, which is like the best token that you can possibly have.
Sure.
Like, oh man.
Yep.
And I think she did the best thing she could when she asked for an apartment, and especially at the end of this short story, she finds out that Harry may still be alive. So that may have played a role in the decision for her to get an apartment as well. Like, I'm going to need somewhere for Harry to go.
Yeah.
She asks for the return of Thomas, but it cannot be granted because that account has already been settled. What does that mean? Thomas walks out of an orgy with beautiful elf women. Justin is just like, "Oh, good. I thought they were starving him." And Molly is like, "Your boyfriend is in there banging a room full of elf women and you don't care?" And she says, "When you're in love with an incubus, it changes your perspective on things. He needs to feed, and this is how he does it. Plus, when he comes home, he's always ready for more." And Molly says, "You're a very weird person, Justine." So then she meets up with Leah outside. She says, "You used me." And Leah says that she needed to get her in between the Fomor and the Svartalfs, securing a peace treaty. She didn't want that to go through, and she didn't tell her that because Molly wouldn't have trusted or believed her, and she probably wouldn't have done it. And then I love this. Molly says, "How'd you know I find the bomb?" And Leah says, "Bomb?" Like she's like, "I didn't know there was a bomb." And then Leah tips her hand and says, "How he manages to endure your insolence is beyond me." Wait a minute. This is present tense.
Yeah.
And Molly says, "Auntie, is he alive? Is Harry alive?" And Leah says, "I did not say that he was alive, dear child, and neither should you." Very, very interesting.
Yep.
Molly, this is how Molly knows to look for him in Cold Days. She knew just like barely ahead of time. I think this is like right before Harry comes back.
Yeah.
I think this is like right before what we see in Cold Days. All right, you talk about Cold Case.
Yeah, so I don't know. This was probably like, it was cool, and I think there was one part that was like very, I guess, meaningful. So, when did this take place?
Cold Case.
Had it been later?
Yeah, Cold Case takes place. I can look. I think it's like around the time of peace talks.
Okay.
Or it's like after Skin Game.
Okay, so Somali is the Winter Lady. She's off somewhere doing some stuff for Mab. Is the first scene in the bar? Or
no, she's like on the ship with Mab, and Mab is like taking her to Alaska, and she's like telling her, she's like, "I need you to go collect the tribute from this tribe." And then Molly's like, "How am I going to get there?" And Mab like freezes the ice in front of them.
And she walks. She walks off it.
Yeah, then she goes to the bar.
Okay, gotcha. She meets Clint and Carlos. To be honest, the only things I think really stuck with me about this one are the Ramirez stuff with him.
Yeah.
The talk with Mab, and then the crazy tentacle people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of cool, because like, when else do we see Lovecraft?
Yeah, because these are different. When I was initially taking notes, I was writing Fomor.
Yeah.
But then I
but they're
was
not.
like, these are not the Fomor.
Yeah.
These are like straight up Lovecraftian entities. Um, and I really hope that we see more of them. Because this was like this was like exactly what I love about Lovecraft. It's always set in like this creepy town that's like out of the way, like a seaside town of like fishermen, and it's just very like unsettling. Like this whole scene with Clint at the bar where he like grabs her and he's like, I don't know you. You need to come with me. And she's like, fuck off. And he's
Yep.
like, don't know you. Don't know you. Don't know
Yep.
you. And he's just like freaking out. It's like that's like what a Lovecraftian
Yeah.
like
It's like
human servitor is
they're
like.
all
Is he
possessed. Yeah.
yeah, just like straight up, it's very like there's no like human brain in there. He's been taken over by like this very
Yeah.
alien creature that doesn't understand social norms of any kind. Um and so yeah, I love this scene where he's like trying to pull her away and she's like fuck off, and then Ramirez comes out of nowhere and breaks the guy's knee
Knight
and
in shining
finger.
armor.
Yeah, and the bartender kicks him out and sends him packing, and they can't figure out why like nobody is um like interfering at
Yeah.
all. Um, so yeah, it says Carlos weighed the value of heeding her words versus the personal pleasure he would take in being contrary. Uh, Harry Dresden has a horrible influence on far too many people and has much to answer for. I like that
That's
line.
awesome.
It must take place right after Cold Days because that's when she becomes the Winter Lady. Um, so yeah, I would guess either like right after Cold Days or like right after Skin Game.
And then we get to the tribe, right? I guess no, there's a little bit before that.
Well, Ramirez admits to not hunting down Molly, and
Yes,
he even like messed up all the efforts for them to because he said that he's like Harry liked you and he thought that it was worth sticking his neck out for you.
Yep.
So that's cool. That's like how much he thinks of Harry and what he thinks of Molly. Molly's like flirting with him a lot. She's like, he's like, well, you know what we should do now? And she's like, find a warm place to make out. And he's like, and she's like, geez, my libido is going crazy.
Yep, that's the Winter Lady for you.
Yeah. They spy on the other bar and they see the Lovecraft, or they circle back around and they look at this bar after it closes, and she says it got hentai level weird when tentacles are like coming out of this guy's mouth and stuff. And they're like planning whatever they're gonna do for their ancient god.
Yeah, what did they call that? Oh, the Church of the Sleeper.
Yep, Church of the
One
Sleeper.
Of the old ones.
Yeah. The Mixani tribe are shapeshifters that take the form of cormorants,
which
is a bird.
Yep, I love cormorants.
Their kids are missing, and Molly and Ramirez agree to go get them. And we kind of learn that Ramirez never really came back from the war with the Red Court, which may inform us as to why he's acting the way he is in the next couple books. He misses the certainty of knowing that he's fighting evil. He misses the idea that there's no gray areas. It's like, see a vampire, kill a vampire.
Yep.
And I think that says a lot about what he does in peace talks, because, you know, not to spoil anything, but he's kind of acting different than he usually does. He's acting like, you know, before when he would be involved with Harry, there was a lot of gray area. There was a lot of like, yeah, we're not supposed to do this, but we'll do it anyway. And there was kind of like a cavalier attitude. And now that he's seen the evil of the Red Court and fighting that war, he's like, no more gray areas. Everything is black and white. Like, you're evil. You're either evil or you're not.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we see him act the way he does in peace talks. But it says that he carried pliers with him to take vampire teeth. I was like,
really.
dang. They find the Church of the Sleeper. One of the old ones, Ramirez. It was either Molly or Ramirez say that even gods fear them. The more people remember them and worship them or fear them, the more powerful they get. Lovecraft wrote about them and made easy to remember like stories and nursery rhymes to keep them alive. And so I thought that was really interesting. I'm like, I hope the whole Lovecraft thing comes back to play a big role in the series, because I fairly recently got into Lovecraft and I love it. And so I hope we see more of like just this weird shit. Molly starts up her one-woman rave spell and kicks down the door, promptly realizing why Harry does it all the time, because it is awesome.
Yep.
Ramirez takes the kids and Molly is pinned to the table.
Oh, this is a cool scene.
If she's sacrificed, her blood will be enough to wake the sleeper. She warns the servitors, saying, I am Lady Molly of Winter. And immediately frozen shafts of ice are coming from everywhere, just erupting into being, like instantly.
Shredding
like no,
everything.
Yeah, just shredding all the servitors. And Molly like cackles in the middle from her like frozen cocoon. And yeah, I thought it was excellent. It's like, that is the power of the Winter Lady.
Yeah.
Like that is some real power.
Real juju.
Yeah. Molly and Ramirez take the kids back and then retreat to his hotel room, where they have a super hot, almost sex scene. It is like a really steamy scene. And then as soon as he's about to put it in, she wakes up in the shower and she's super confused. And when she walks out, Ramirez is lying on the floor, broken and bleeding out, and the room is completely trashed.
Yeah, crazy turn of events.
Yeah. And it's sad because it's like she's had feelings, like obviously she's had feelings for Harry too, but she's had feelings for Ramirez since White Knight.
Yeah.
Because when he got hurt in White Knight, she went and stayed with him at the hospital. Yep. And so it sucks that they're finally here. They can finally have a relationship. It's a good pairing, and she can't fucking do it. It's like,
That's
God,
crazy.
God damn it. Like, we were so close. We were so close. Mab shows up and explains that since she is the lady and not the mother, the mantle will not let her have sex because it would destroy the purpose of the mantle, because she would be acting in the way that the mother would. So it's like, man, that sucks. Like, she's gonna go full on Fae crazy every time.
Yeah, kill whoever her partner is. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense, like why Maeve was the way that she was, I guess.
Yeah,
because she was super like, pent up, I guess would be the phrase.
And Mab also tells her that the payment from the tribe is their children for the ongoing war, which is wild to think about. Kind of goes against Molly's morals that she has, right?
Yeah.
Molly says she'll find a solution one day.
Yeah, because Mab is like, my job is to just constantly throw soldiers at the enemy. She's like, I need like forever soldiers to like keep going and keep going. Yeah, it's a tough job.
Yep.
All right, we just got a couple more. We got jury duty.
Yep.
This one was another super short one where Harry gets summoned to jury duty. Jim was saying that he wanted Harry to just like have to deal with like random like everyday things. And so I thought it was funny that he's getting sent to jury duty. But essentially, the breakdown of it is really short.
Yeah.
Luther is said to have killed a man in cold blood in an alleyway. Harry doesn't believe that he's guilty, and so he goes investigating. He finds out that the White Court. He finds out that Luther is part of Marcone's gang, and like he had done some time for Marcone, and the White Court is holding on to this girl that Luther saw being attacked in the alley, but nobody can find the girl for evidence, and so that's kind of the thing that's holding up this whole court case.
Yeah.
So Harry goes in and he gets the girl out. Essentially, he just like kicks ass, and there's even the one guy that's like the what he's like a soldier basically. He's like a bodyguard, and Harry's like, you know, I have your White Court, you know, lady here. He's like, I can easily kill her.
Yep.
He's like, you're gonna let me go. You're gonna let the girl go. When I get outside, I'll let her go. And the guy's like, okay. And so that's kind of how it goes down. And then the court case resumes, and Luther gets to walk free.
Because the girl can stand as witness, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I didn't think there wasn't much there.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked the story, but I don't think I have much to say.
Yeah, it's more of just quick, problem solved.
Yep. Totally.
I did not like the narrator for this one.
For
day one?
Oh, yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah, it was like really, I don't know why. The first, I think, time that I read it, I wasn't bothered by it, but this time it was like hard for me to listen to.
Yeah, it was. Like, Butter's voice was like really squeaky.
Nate, like, yeah, just.
And then weird. Harry's voice was like really deep, and
yeah,
so
and
was
even
Michael's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like it too much either. What did you think overall? I don't even really want to go through like all the notes of it, but like what?
Yeah.
What?
No, we don't have to.
What did you think of just like the story in general?
I mean, I liked the story. I thought it was cool that we finally got some more insight to the knights, I guess, and kind of like how their mantle works per se.
Yeah.
Michael's telling him like, because Butter sees the question
right.
marker, right? And Michael's like, I have no idea what you just said, but that's probably, God speaks to a man through a voice he can understand, right?
Right.
And so I think that's cool. And it was, it was a good little run for Butters. It wasn't crazy, but it was cool.
Yeah, I liked what Michael said about that, and how like his comes to him through like prayer. There's like this quiet voice that just like guides him in like a direction.
Yeah.
And then I wonder how it is for Sonya. Like I wonder how he gets told where to go. I think that'd be
a good question.
interesting.
That's a good question.
But for Butters to like get like the MMO like quest marker and stuff, I'm like, that's so just ridiculous and funny.
Yeah.
Like that's so crazy.
Yep.
And there's even the quote where Michael is like, does that mean something to you? And he says, it's how an NPC tells you they have a quest to give you in an MMORPG. And Michael says, there was a great many letters in that, and I'm not sure I understand it.
Yeah.
So good. And then Butters was like talking about Bob with Michael.
Yep.
And I don't think we've ever really heard Michael's thoughts about Bob.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't like that thing. He's like, I don't think that thing's good. I think it has to be evil.
Yeah.
And Butters is like, it's just knowledge. Like, it's not like, I don't think it's good or evil. He's like, I think it's just knowledge. And Michael is like, I don't trust it. And Butters is like, should I take it on my first quest with me? And he's like, absolutely fucking not.
No.
Like, absolutely not. Um, so I thought that was kind of funny. Um, we do find out that the bad guy here is Baku
Baku
Baku,
Baku.
which is like this toy that was sold to kids that that like is supposed to eat bad dreams, but then it kind of went rogue and
Yeah.
like does its own thing now. And it goes to show, what we were talking about earlier with the Billy Goat's curse is Harry was kind of like, um, he's like, enough people believe in this thing, it's going to end the curse. And then with this, Harry was saying, like, yeah, the Baku Baku isn't real. Like, it's not like a real like entity that's been there since the beginning of time. He's like, it's like a thing that people like dreamed up, and enough
Yeah.
people believed in it that it's just kind of real now.
Yep.
And so that was kind of interesting. And she's like siphoning off the energy of her patients.
Yep.
And then she takes Butter's glasses, and he's able to fight because he looks at magic very differently than Harry does, because Butters understands like technology and stuff. He's like, she has to be emitting some sort of like static field.
Yeah,
like
a yep.
yeah,
EMF.
like there has to be
Electromagnetic
some
field.
sort of like interference. And so he puts on his headphones and plays Weird Al Yankovic. And even though he can't see, wherever he hears the static, like whatever side of his head he hears the static on, he like turns that direction and is able to fight her.
It's crazy.
And I thought that was pretty good. And then it's either like God or Uriel that like speaks through Butters and does the like, what we usually hear from Michael, like the
Turn back from
quota
your
sodium.
sin. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Butters does that. I'm like, oh man, he's really a Knight of the Cross. And he even gives the enemy a chance to turn back, but it doesn't want to, and he kills it. So yeah, good story. Michael picks him up, and Butters says that he's gonna wear sports goggles from now on.
Yep.
I thought that was funny.
Yep.
I also thought it was funny when Butters, he has to like bribe the
Stan, yeah.
the doctor. He has to bribe the doctor to get information on Stan. And so
trades him the card or whatever.
Yeah. He trades him a blue Murloc pet from World of Warcraft. And it's funny, if nobody played World of Warcraft back in the day, you would, I never did this, but you would go to events, like Blizzard would like have a special event, and they'd hand out these cards that, what are you doing? They'd hand out, did you see him jump up there?
I saw him, yep. He says, give me attention.
Yeah. They'd hand out these cards that had like a code on them, and you'd go into your World of Warcraft account and you'd like enter the
Type in
code.
the code, and then you'd get like a mount or something.
Yeah, you'd get like a mount or a pet or something. And so the blue Murloc was very very sought after for a while.
Gotcha.
So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, overall it's a good look into what it looks like for Butters to become a knight, because I think everybody was really curious about that after Skin Game. They're like, what does Butters being a knight look like? And so I think this story was kind of necessary.
Yeah.
But I'm eager to see him in like another like 3 or 4 books. I want to see what he's like as a knight when he's much more experienced.
For sure.
So then we get Zoo Day, which I don't know when this takes place either. I can look it up.
Well, it apparently takes place right when the Butters thing is happening, because he tries to kill Harry. So whenever that takes place is when this one takes place.
Yeah, when was that? It's right after Skin Game.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're right, because Butters calls him and he's like, I'm at the zoo.
And I can't leave my daughter. Yeah.
Right. So the note from Jim is pretty interesting. He said that he never meant for Harry to have a daughter, but he needed to give him a reason to take down the Red Court with Ernest and to like really like be on a revenge kick.
Yep.
And he thought that Harry having a daughter would do that. So he gave Harry a daughter, and then he said that it from that point on it just made total sense
Yep.
for Harry to have a daughter.
Yeah.
So again, this one's pretty long, so I'm not going to go through all the notes.
Yeah.
But there are a couple good moments when they're walking up to the zoo and they're talking, and the animals are very animated. Harry smells some bad like warlock powers. He like tracks him down. He sees that it's a kid that's like sitting off to the side. And then he goes back to Maggie and he tells her what's going on. He treats her like an adult. He doesn't like dumb it down for her.
Yep.
And she's kind of sitting there like thinking about it. And she says, "Will I get powers?" And he says, "It's possible, but no way to know for sure."
Yep.
And she says, "If I do, will you teach me how to use them so I don't hurt people?" And he says, "If you want me to." She says, "If something happens to you, who will teach me?" And he says, "Nothing's going to happen to me."
Yep.
She says, "It could, and then there wouldn't be anyone. I'd be a warlock." And it's just like, oh man.
Yeah,
like, this
she's
just
hitting
breaks,
him in the heart. Yep.
Yeah, it just breaks my heart. She says that Harry should go help the kid because it could be her someday. And she says, "If somebody needs help, you help them, even when it's hard. Molly told me that about you."
And then
And
he said, "I'd be damned if the kid wasn't watching me, assessing me silently. She must get it from her mom's side."
yep,
That's cool.
yep,
Because she's such a smart
right?
girl.
Yeah.
And obviously we see from her POV that she's very much in tune with
Yes.
a lot of stuff that even Harry's not.
Right. And even during this scene, you know, she says, you know, "Molly told me that about you." And then in her POV, she said, like in her narration, she says, like, I wanted to see what he would say because maybe Molly was lying to me too.
Yep.
And like maybe he doesn't really go help people even when it's hard.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a beautiful parallel. Like Maggie, man, it's so interesting because Maggie is so quick to, you know, ask Harry like, "Do you want to be my dad? Like, do you want to like live with me and like be a real dad to me?" But on the flip side, she also knows that she can't, you know, she's had to learn the hard way of who she can trust and who she cannot trust.
Yeah, she's got a lot of trauma.
Yeah. And so, you know, even though she opens up the door to Harry very quickly and she opens it up wide,
she's still extremely like,
yeah, she's like, "We'll see. We'll see what you're like."
Yeah.
And so she's always kind of like testing him and seeing, you know, what he's going to do, if he's really going to, you know, be this person that she hoped that he would be. And so I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Harry helps the kid. He levels with him. The kid is accidentally summoning demons, and his name is Austin. And of course, Harry, you know, gets rid of the demon and all that.
Yep. Which he does in a pretty cool way. Because Austin is like freaking out, and he's like, you need to run. Harry's like, "Nah, it's fine."
Yeah.
And he just like whips open
a way,
and then shuts it really fast, and just casually walks over to Austin. "Hey, kid," you know. I was like,
he's like, "Let's go get a burger."
He takes his badass moments when he can get them.
Right. And I wonder if we'll ever see him again, because I think even at the end of this, he said that he was going to sit down with Austin, get him like a shower and some food.
Yep.
And then he was going to teach him a couple basic things, and then he was going to take him to his parents. And I'm like, I kind of wonder, oh, you know what? Jim Butcher said that in the next book we see Harry pick up a new apprentice. I wonder if it's Austin.
That would be cool.
That would be super cool.
Yep.
I never thought about it being Austin. I thought it was going
Yeah.
to be I thought it was either going to be Maggie or I thought it was going to be one of Molly's siblings.
Ah. Yeah. That'd be sweet, dude.
Interesting. Okay. The gears are turning.
Yep.
So then we get Maggie's POV. Um, she's talking about her dad. She's like, he's okay, I guess, but I wish he was a little bit more up on his monsters. And we see that she's privy to like all of these
Like very minor
yeah, very like minor creatures and demons and stuff that
wills maybe that can't really affect, can't really do a lot of harm, but are still
yeah,
there and still influencing people.
right, yeah, exactly. And then we find out that there's a book where she learned about all of this, and Molly was the first one to make the book. And then she passed it down to like all of her siblings until Harry, who was born in grave peril,
Yeah.
um, until Harry passes it on to Maggie. And of course, they all forget about it as they get
Yep.
older. So at one point, when Molly was very young, she was aware of the supernatural,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. Okay, so then she doesn't want Harry to think that she's some baby who can't handle the zoo.
Yep.
She says, "I'm sure that he'd take me somewhere else if I asked him to, but my dad is big and strong, and I wanted him to think that I was too." Ah, man.
Yep. Wrenches the heart. Such a sweet little girl.
Yeah. She says, "My dad has fought bad things for a long time and has seen bad things happen to people. Miss Molly says that kind of thing leaves wounds, but you can't see them. But she said that he carried them without complaining and didn't let it stop him from helping people, even when it was really, really hard." A lot of this is like her inner monologue of being worried that
Yep.
her dad will like leave her or that he'll think that she's a freak or that she can't hang.
Yeah.
And that he'll change his mind about her, which is so just brutally sad. It's
Yep.
so, oh man, I wish.
Yeah, but it just comes from the trauma because like none of that is true.
Yeah, right,
She's
right.
she's been kind of forced to think that way.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
for like how old is she in this? 6 or something, or even younger?
Something like that. Yeah, like 6
Just
or 7.
terribly sad for such a
Yeah,
young girl.
right. And like, I wish that she would like voice these things because Harry would shut that down
Oh,
so
instantly.
fast.
Yeah, instantly.
Oh man. Um, we find out that Mouse has an ability to cheat in life, making things turn out luckier, getting the good seat and the good waiter at a restaurant. And it made me wonder how often he does this with Harry.
Probably all the time.
Yeah, like how often is Harry like getting super, super lucky? Um, and yeah. Okay, so she goes and she beats the monsters, all that.
Yep,
She gets back to the table in time for Harry to show up with Austin, who's going to eat with them and go see the gorillas. And she says, "Okay, Dad," for the first time, and Harry smiles.
Yep.
Then we get Mouse's POV. Did you like this?
Yeah, no, I did. I did like it. I think any I think he could have done anything with this, and I would have liked it. So I think I'm certainly biased in that sense.
Sure.
But it's cool because we only get it, one other time, right, where we ever hear Mouse talk.
Yeah, in changes.
And so I don't know. It's just cool to see. There's not a lot that goes on. It's all just tied with the Maggie stuff.
Right.
Mouse is kind of always looking out for her and helping her. Do these battles. So he's fighting with his shadow that is influencing those creeps to do weird stuff around Maggie. And so, yeah, I mean, it's nothing crazy, but it's cool to see him kind of, like fight for her behind her back almost. Like she doesn't really know he's like
doing
always protecting her, which, which is why I love Mouse so much. So it was it was cool.
Yeah, it's funny to see them all go off on their own and fight their own battles without any of the other ones being aware of it at all.
Yep.
I do love the quote where he says, "Maggie says my vest is red. I don't know what red is, but it makes her happy."
Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome.
So his shadow is one of the brothers
Yeah.
that was in the litter of when Harry goes and finds them in blood rites or
Yep.
whatever. And matter of fact, this brother had stayed behind with the demons, and from what I understood, the demon's dark magic had kind of seeped in
Corrupted it. Yeah.
to this
Corrupted him.
dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Mouse even says like when he like is like about to defeat him, he's like, "You could come with us." Like you,
Yeah.
he's like, you would be like invited into this family, and
Yep.
you would be welcomed, and you could do good with us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how interesting would that be? Because think of the situation from Harry's point of view. He comes back to the table, and Mouse is like, if his brother had said yes, Mouse can't communicate with Harry, not really.
Yeah.
And so you would either have to wait until Molly was around so that
But he can kind of communicate with Maggie though.
Maggie... But even Maggie can't do what Molly does, where Molly can like directly read his mind.
Yeah, but maybe she wouldn't need to. You know,
Yeah.
She might be able to kind of understand the situation enough. I'd like to think that she could.
Yeah.
And like maybe tell Harry, no, Dad, this is not what you think it is, or something.
Right. Yeah. Because I'm like, that would be so interesting if he came back with this dog that looked like him but was black or whatever and was all like banged up.
Yep.
It's like, that'd be so weird for Harry. Would be like, are you like bringing this dog home with us? Like that? Oh man, I would love to see that play out. That'd be so interesting. But yeah, it's too bad because I think it would have been cool for Mouse to have his own kind of companion that can do stuff. Or it's like his own
apprentice.
Yeah. Like that would have been pretty neat. Yeah, and so then they all kind of come back to the tables. Harry brings back Austin. He says he's going to get the kid a shower and food and teach him a few basic lessons and take him back to his parents. And then Mouse licks Harry. Harry says gross, and then Mouse says, but what he actually meant was good dog.
Good dog.
Yeah.
That's right.
So yeah, that brings us to the end of briefcases.
Yep. It's pretty wild. And then we're on the big trio or the big duo.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going into peace talks, and then Battleground will be.
Wait for that. Two episodes, right?
Battleground will be split in two because there's so much that happens. There's such a crazy amount of things that happen in that book. So yeah, that'll be super fun. We didn't rank this one because we also did not rank side jobs.
Yeah.
So I figured we just wouldn't rank this one, especially because, like, quite frankly, it would probably be at the bottom of my list.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
So I just
probably better left unranked.
Yeah, better left unranked.
Yep.
So yeah, it was good to hop back into Dresden Files for the week. But I'm looking forward to like the main part of the series for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Cool. Any final thoughts on any of these stories?
Not really. Yeah, not really. I think looking at these just for shits and giggles, I probably will say that, and again, I know I'm biased, but I'll probably say that Zoo Day is my favorite.
Yeah, that's a good question. Is which one is your favorite? Yeah. I've never really liked Zoo Day. I mean, I like it as far as there's a lot of good Harry and Maggie stuff.
Yep.
But I really have never liked stories that show the same timeline of events from multiple angles.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it's just never done it for me. There's been a couple books that have done that, even ones that I've read somewhat recently, and I just never enjoy it, even if the characters are doing like very different things. I'm like, I want to like keep going forward. I don't want to go back, relive the same timeline.
The whole thing.
Yeah. And so Zoo Day just never has really done it for me, but I can definitely understand why it's people's favorites. There's a lot of like very cute moments.
Yep.
Yeah, I think for me it's either Cold Case, Bombshells, or 4A Wizardry.
Yeah, I would say Bombshells would be my second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I like 4A Wizardry just because I love anytime we get a side story of Harry just doing like a random case, like not something that's going to take up a whole book and be like this huge thing, but just like a random case where he's like solving a ghost haunting or something.
Cool.
Like I love
like, take a break from all this crazy crap that's world ending and let's just get a simple ghost hunt, dude.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I also forgot to mention that in one of the Bigfoot stories, he goes and finds Bigfoot with a team of Sasquatch searchers.
Funny. Yes.
And like he's like sitting with them, and like Bigfoot approaches and Harry goes, "Oh my god, it's him!" And like Bigfoot shows up and they all run screaming. And
Harry just hangs out and that's hilarious.
He's like laughing, and River Shoulder's like, "Did you need to do that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did. It was so good."
Yeah, that's awesome.
So funny.
That was funny.
All right, guys. Well, that kind of wraps up our thoughts for Briefcases, and we'll be going on to Peace Talks. I would imagine that Jake Bishop and Gavin will be back for Peace Talks. Yeah. And they'll be hanging out with us to chat about that. And sorry if this one was kind of a slower episode. It just wasn't
not a lot of really great content. I mean, good content, not great content.
Right? Yeah, it wasn't the pinnacle of Dresden Files to say the least. So it was a little mediocre for us, but at the end of the day, it's all Dresden Files, so it's still good. So I don't know what you'll be able to expect from us. This is going to be coming out in the midst of like a bunch of other stuff that I got to edit. But we'll have probably in the near future, we'll have more Harry Potter because we're going to be splitting Deathly Hallows into 2 episodes. We're going to stop like midway through the book, talk about it, and then the other half of the book. So you can look forward to that. And then coming up pretty soon will be Farseer and probably some more like King's Dark Tidings and stuff like that. So stay tuned. We'll keep you informed as to what's coming up. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow our links in the description to see our Twitter and Discord, and reach out to us or support us on Patreon, where you can watch these episodes live as we record them and participate in the chat if you like. That's where we're going to end it, guys. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.